Mr. Gülen has a long history of working with educators who are trying to blend Western forms of the sciences and humanities into more traditional value education forms, more dominant in the Muslim world. Leadership experience in helping people, the mission which Mr. Gülen has designed for them. My name is Don Pittman. I am presently the William Tabernet Professor of the History of Religions Emeritus and the founding director of the Interreligious Understanding program at Phillips Theological Seminary in Tulsa, Oklahoma, United States of America. I was fortunate to come into contact with Yusuf Dundar, who is the representative in Tulsa for the Hizmet movement. He introduced me to various activities of the Raindrop Foundation and the Turkish Cultural Center in Tulsa. And then I had the great opportunity last May in 2014 to travel with Mr. Dundar and a group of other students from Tulsa to Turkey. I'm not an expert in the field of Islamic studies or the history of Turkey, but I've had an opportunity to come to know a sense of mission, people who work with the Gülen movement. As a civil society movement, they have continued to take up the mission which Mr. Gülen has designed for them as bridge builders in many ways, bridging Islam and the West, science and religion, comparative studies and dialogue and friendship with people of other faiths and traditions. So a very positive impression of their work. Right after 9/11 in 2001, Mr. Gülen wrote, "There is no terrorist who can be a Muslim, and no real Muslim can be a terrorist." Mr. Gülen has led a struggle for human rights as a civil society movement that has sought to express a moderate or modernist form of Islam. Not that Mr. Gülen is a secularist, though he has been charged with that. But he has a long experience as an imam, working with people in many different forms of service, most especially in education. Mr. Gülen has a long history of working with educators who are trying to blend Western forms of the sciences and humanities into more traditional value education forms, more dominant in the Muslim world. He is a person who is interested in politics, but not in political gain. He's never advocated, as I understand it, a political party, but he does involve himself in addressing the issues of our time. His organizations have raised tremendous amounts of money for charity work and broad forms of social transformation, but he himself is not a person of wealth. So I recommend reading many of his essays which address this combination of East and West, his interest in dialogue and friendship. And so he has leadership experience in helping people to discern the truth through interfaith and multicultural communities. I think that it represents Islam well in the modern world, where we are dependent so much on one another for continued survival. The movement has emphasized face-to-face communication and mutuality of care, education spread throughout the world. So I think it has a tremendous role to play in its current sphere of influence and beyond. Interfaith relations are at the heart of what all of us have to be concerned about in today's world. I think one of the advantages which the Hizmet movement had from the beginning was a model of discussion groups, or one might call them discernment groups. Many people have made reference to the fact that there will be no peace in the world without peace between religions, as Hans Küng has said, and that there is no possibility for that kind of community unless we get to know one another. And we can't really get to know one another, I think, until we have an opportunity for that face-to-face communication. So if we intend to make progress toward knowing one another, we have to first have a basic mutual respect. And I think that the Hizmet movement, in the way they have structured meetings within their own community life, and the way in which they have incorporated guests into their work, with the special program which takes Westerners to Turkey to see the manifestations of the good work that Hizmet is doing. So I think there's a great potential for dialogical growth in conversation with people of goodwill. Mr. Gülen has tried to address that possibility with great hopes for what it might mean for Turkey in the future and for the rest of the world. Well, I have had the opportunity to visit one or two and found them to be modern educational institutions with curricula that attend to Western science and the humanities, the arts, and language study, English being taught there, and a great deal of money being put into these special schools and larger institutions. So I think it continues to be, as I understand it, high on the priority of Hizmet to broaden and deepen their commitment to a form of education in which the traditional value education of Islamic communities is blended with a more secular, Western, modern format in educational institutions. To be honest, I'm not in a position to judge the applicability of all the criticisms that might be made. I think there is considerable cynicism about any successful organization, as people question motives and so forth. Based upon a recent op-ed in the New York Times, which Mr. Gülen wrote, you get a very clear sense that he is interested in a particular kind of work which does not in any way promise or expect to provide a venue for a political career. He's not a politician in that sense. And so I believe while there are criticisms of any religious organization that attempts great things in the world, I find no basis for a legitimate concern along these lines.
I have found in the Hizmet movement, again, a compassion and an understanding of people's needs at a very basic level, and again, a wonderful way to share our understanding and faith, really, and respect for each human life.
Hizmet means service, and that means that you actually put into action the words instead of just preaching, instead of self-congratulatory events, instead of pointing fingers outward.